Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our next series of our Coming Back Stronger webinar. We're delighted to have some extra guests with you today for our special Reopening Your Doors version of this series. So we're looking to get some reopening stories and take you through what the first couple of weeks back in salon have been like. Next slide, please. So first of all, we just wanted to say, we know there's been a lot of talk in our Facebook group and various discussion about the action that we've helped to take in our cross-parliamentary group that we're involved in. There has been a meeting today, so there has been some updates. So we have had a discussion today where we are looking to set out a timeline for resuming face treatments and reopening saunas and steam rooms. We also want them to produce clearer PPE guidelines. I think there's been a lot of discussion about the industry not complying with various guidelines. We believe that most people are, but in any case where they're not, it's because the guidelines really aren't clear enough. So we're not sure whether you're supposed to wear masks as well as visors. People are struggling to work in the visors, so are using alternatives, or they're just not enforceable across the clients and various team members. The guidelines should be clear and not open to interpretation, and they need to be enforceable in order to keep our industry safe. At the end of the day, if we are getting a bad name for not following the guidelines, it's going to block the rest of the industry from getting the green light to open. So that really needs to be a lot clearer. We're also looking to get them to provide further financial support for the industry. So the self-employed support and furlough schemes really need extending. The beauty industry is one made up from many self-employed people, and it will give people the security to not have to go underground and provide treatments that technically aren't allowed yet, just out of desperation for the fact that they are low in financial support. And also we want to bring forward an economic stimulus package for the sector. So there's a lot of low consumer confidence, as you'll see throughout the webinar from what we've seen from various booking trends. The approach that our government has taken when opening parts of the beauty and not all of it is really impacting the industry and making people feel like there's a reason to be uneasy about booking these treatments. The rest of Europe has come back a lot stronger than the UK so far because they all reopened at once. So we really need a stimulus package to kickstart things in our wonderful country. And it's a package of tax rebates and incentives used by the government to help stimulate people and stop a financial crisis from happening. So next slide, please. So as I said, we're going to focus today on some reopening stories. I'll introduce our guests a little bit later. Next slide, please. So I'll introduce us from Treatwell today first. So my name is Kate. I'm one of our account management team here at Treatwell. I predominantly look after all of our venues outside of London. And then we've also got my colleague, Mary Ann, who is an account manager for our London West accounts. So a lot of you probably recognise and have spoken to either one of us before, I hope. Next slide, please. We've also got joining us today Rory from Sharps Barber and Shop and Matt from Threads & Co. So these are two of our salon partners who have been with us for a long time. Both reopened recently and have a lot of special things to share. So thanks again, guys, for joining us on today's webinar. Sorry, next slide, please. So as I said, on today's agenda, we're first of all going to be looking at online customer booking trends. So we'll briefly run through what we've seen in the trends of our customers booking since the market has reopened. We're going to have a bit of a panel discussion with Rory and Matt so that they can give you an overview of their first week back in business from hygiene, client and business perspective. And then we've also summarized some of the most asked questions from you guys during the sign-up process. And we've also got a Slido link, which is in the description box underneath this webinar. So in the YouTube channel, you'll be able to see a little link, which you can also post any live questions on. We'll get to those at the end. So if you feel like there's anything that's cropped up that you want to ask, please do ask it and we will try our best to answer it for you during today's webinar. Next slide, please. So I'm going to hand over to Mary Ann, who's going to take you through some of our online booking trends.
Thanks so much, Kate. So before we get to our panel discussion with Rory and Matt, I'd just like to briefly share some kind of insights and trends we've picked up on since the market has recently reopened in the UK. And I'll be specifically kind of discussing which services and treatments have been the most popular to help you work on prioritising them moving forward. So next slide. So firstly, we have some really great news from the data that has come this week from the UK market. So on this Monday, the 14th of July, Treatwell saw a multiple all-time high bookings record count. So we saw the biggest day for bookings ever on the marketplace and the highest booking date ever through the widget or book now button. So many of you will have this on your website, Instagram, and or Facebook. So this is really, really encouraging data because it shows that the demand and consumer confidence in hair and beauty services is still there. We do recognise, though, that the consumer confidence is still not at an optimal level, and it's taking a little bit slower in the UK to come back compared to our other European markets. But we're working really hard at Treatwell to restore this consumer confidence through various marketing campaigns and other initiatives that we have going on at the moment. But even so, knowing this information, what this means for you is that you absolutely must make sure that you're bookable online 24/7 so that you're covering all potential kind of avenues in which your customers are clearly going to be inclined to book through. So moving on to the next slide. Just to briefly touch on this, you should be really encouraging your clients to book through your widgets or book now buttons on your website, Instagram, and Facebook, which also has the added bonus of you not being charged your first-time customer commission. So as you can see on the slide, we provide free social assets like these that you can use to post on your social channels and encourage these online bookings. And we know from our data trends that this is where your clients are going to be inclined to book with you. If you don't have them installed, please reach out to the account management team after this webinar, and we'll be able to help you with this. Moving on to the next slide. So just to briefly summarize the general trends that we've seen. So firstly, I'm going to run through this with you in a moment in more detail, but the demand for certain treatment types has definitely shifted. So this is in part due to a staggered reopening of permitted treatment types, but also due to an evolving kind of demand in the services that may have been a little bit more missed during the lockdown months. Secondly, as I ran through before, we've seen a consistently growing demand and desire for your customers to book with you online, with online bookings at an all-time high. And thirdly, we've seen an increase in the average amount of items booked per order. So your customers are booking a higher bundle of services in each visit, meaning you need to make sure that your menu properly kind of accommodates for this new trend. So you should be asking yourself questions like, do you have packages set up on your menu, and are your treatments advertised in a really clear and concise manner? You really want to avoid kind of any confusion on behalf of the customer when they're looking through your menu, and have it laid out in a way that encourages them to book multiple services, whether that's through creating packages or categorizing your services correctly. Moving on to the next slide. So here's a kind of broad summary of the most booked treatment types since the market has reopened. For obvious reasons, we have haircuts and hairdressing as the most popular category. And of course, we know that the reason behind that is because they were the first treatments that were permitted by the government. The next popular treatments is the Hollywood wax, and then we have manicures. But interestingly, the last 3 of the top 10 treatments that we've observed being booked are eyebrow and eyelash treatments, such as eyebrow threading or waxing and eyelash tinting. So this is also super encouraging and positive data, because even though we know that these face services aren't allowed to be conducted just yet, the demand for them is still there. So what this indicates is that when those treatments are allowed again, they will hopefully come back strong, just like hair has. Moving on to the next slide. So just to hone in on hair for a second, these were the top 4 hair treatments we saw being booked by customers since the 4th of July. So we've got haircuts, hair coloring and highlights, haircut and blow dry, and balayage. So I just want to note here quickly for any hair venues that are watching, we've noticed that many of you don't have some of the services here listed at all, or even if you do, they might not be correctly listed. So the supply at the moment isn't really matching the high demand for them. So as an example, balayage is named various things depending on the particular salon. So you really want to try and keep your menu as simple as possible moving forward to avoid any confusion on behalf of the customer. We've also noticed that there's been some pricing issues when it comes to some of these services, especially something like hair colouring. We often see venues misleading customers with their pricing models. So to maximise your bookings and kind of meet the demand that's out there, you really need to be accurate in the way that you market and describe your services. So for example, you need to have your hair lengths and their differing prices within a package. And if you're really struggling with breaking down the various pricing elements or creating a package, please reach out to the account management team, and we're happy to help. Moving on. So what we've learned now that hair salons are back open in England, firstly, booking numbers have been huge. So clients are definitely ready to get back into the chair. We saw a huge increase in demand for appointments for the first few weeks back. So as soon as bookings were available, we saw a 2,250% increase, to be exact, across a range of different treatment types. So in fact, every single appointment slot available last week, we saw a staggering 80% of them were booked up. So people really did miss the salon. We also saw that men's hair is really leading the charge at the moment. So the biggest jump in bookings we saw compared to pre-lockdown ever. So for men's hair bookings, they were up more than 10 times. And this narrowly beated out women's to become the most booked treatment on Treatwell, because male clients everywhere were finally able to ditch their new desert island look and get back into the salon and look dapper moving it forward into the new world. So this is also likely to do with the increased safety that comes with pre-booking, instead of relying on the more kind of traditional walk-in, which is no longer allowed by the government guidelines, as we know. We've also seen that roots are showing up strong. So this one really shouldn't come as a surprise. After being starved of any colour touch-up for months, bookings for men and women's hair colouring treatments, everything from sorting out roots to new highlights, shot up by 942% compared to the week before lockdown, in one of the biggest peaks we've ever really seen. But you've got to be prepared to fix some hair colours gone seriously wrong. And the last thing we also saw here were that peak times were almost non-existent. So whether it's people working more flexibly from home, still furloughed, or just prioritising their self-care, instead of normal lunchtime peak salons would expect to see, we've seen bookings spread out across the entire day. So especially in the mornings around 10 a.m. So gone are the days of the dead Monday, and this might mean that you have to kind of adjust your off-minute and last peak discounts within your menu. Moving on to the next slide. So just to quickly touch on beauty, even though beauty only opened back up like a mere few days ago, the demand for certain treatments is still somewhat on par than the pre-corona demand. So as you can see here, orders for waxing hit an all-time high record this week, with nails closely following behind, hitting its second highest record. Also, although face treatments are not open just yet, we can see that the bookings are already back to pre-COVID levels. Unfortunately, though, for some treatments, for example, massages, the demand seems to be marginally kind of lacking behind. And this is due to the obvious hygiene and safety reasons, but we're really hoping that as you continue to grow consumer confidence, that these orders will eventually come back up and spike. So that's done for the online booking trends. I'm going to hand over to Kate now, who's going to start our panel discussion, which is why you're all here.
Thanks, Marianne. I'm sure everyone will agree, some really interesting points, some interesting data that we've seen as things have started to reopen, and hopefully has given you all a little bit of confidence in going forward that we are slowly coming back into business. So yes, moving on to our guests today, both Rory and Matt. If you'd like to, let's start with Rory. Just introduce your salons and yourselves. Tell us a little bit about your businesses.
We run Sharp's Barbershop. It's been open for Barber and Shop. It's been open since 2007. It was the first kind of new school men's grooming venue, to serve beer with their service and have appointments, which was unusual for a barbershop. And now we're in Windmill Street. Pre-lockdown, we had 6 chairs running 6 days a week, 9 or 10 hours a day, and it was a very, very hopping place. Post-lockdown is a different story.
In what way would you say it's just much quieter, I suppose?
We're down to 3 chairs as opposed to 6 due to spacing. and we have to have 45-minute appointments to allow for 15-minute cleaning. We've taken out all of our waiting chairs, and we've got a coffee bar in the front where we serve some of the best coffee in London, of course. We've taken out all the tables and chairs there as well. So there is no waiting in the shop. It's the only people in the shop. Whereas at some points we had 30 people and 40 people in the venue at once doing their thing. Now our max is about 10.
Perfect. And Matt, would you like to just introduce you guys for a second?
Yeah, we've been around since 2017, and we're a hair and beauty coffee shop in the heart of Kensington, where we do hair, all hair treatments and beauty treatments. Before post-lockdown in February was one of our best months we had on record. And now since going back, like everyone's kind of noticed, there has been a bit of a dip. But we're just really being positive and just keeping the morale going and just really trying to keep up as much as we can with the changes that are currently taking place. Because like for everybody, there's always something new to implement and train the guys on. And just really being really positive and just trying to see what the customer feedback's like and see how the customers feel throughout all the changes going on.
Perfect. So we wanted to just move on to our first kind of topic in the panel discussion, which is all about hygiene in the salon. So what kind of concerns have you guys noticed cropping up from clients? Have you had any that have? And if you have, how have you overcome those?
We've had a few clients, more I'd say vulnerable clients, who are a bit concerned about it, and they would tend to call before their appointment, and we just reassure them to the changes we've made. For example, the spacing upon arrival, we welcome in and we sanitize their hands. If they haven't got a face mask, we offer them a face mask, and we explain to them we wear visors and face masks as well. And then the same for the beauty treatment, we explain to them that the girls are in full PPE, the mask, the gloves, and we also explain to them that the salon's not going to be as full as it normally would be, so it's just one in, one out, and it's all by appointment only. So once we've explained that to them, they tend to be a lot more relaxed.
Sure. And Rory, how about you? Have you noticed any concerns from any of your clients that have come in?
Well, not specifically concerns about the PPE, but how the PPE will affect their haircut or beard trim. So
Yes.
How can I get a beard trim with a mask on? Fair question. How are you going to do around my tight sides with a mask around my ears? Is the barber going to be able to do me a proper fade or blend with gloves on? So we took this into consideration beforehand. We made sure our COVID secure policies took these into account. And we've got the FAQs for the barbers, and we just practiced them to the point where a customer asks a question and we're more comforting than anything. We don't expect any customer to worry. So that's how we've dealt with them. We've just really practiced them. We've made common sense decisions. And we studied the COVID secure policies of New York, Canada, Germany, France, and Spain. And then we took the best of those and put them into place before the government even gave us indication of how they wanted to do it here. So we communicated that to our customers, and everybody's pretty happy. It's just, how are you going to work around the mask, and can you do it well with gloves? So we've changed our way of working to make sure that that's not a concern.
That's good. How have you overcome that, just out of curiosity? Because it seems like quite a big challenge, like obviously around the sideburn area if your customers are wearing masks.
So first thing we do is we allow the customer to take the mask off, but the barber will still have a mask and face shield on. When we wash the hair, we use gloves. After the hair is cleaned, both the customer and the barber are fairly sanitized, so the barber can take the gloves off if they need to use a blend. But we've actually found that the barbers are using their gloves throughout the appointment. But we just strongly encourage them to use the mask indoors until we need to get around it. So if you remove the mask from around your ear, we can get this ear, hold it to your face, put it back on, pull it back. We have a lower request for beard trims because we're not doing shades and we're not doing the edging with a straight blade. So it's not really been a problem.
That's good. I mean, it already sounds like both of you are going way above and beyond over what the government very vague government guidelines were suggesting. So I'm sure there's no question that you're taking every single consideration into your hygiene practices. So the next question is the time that you've put aside. So, you know, including any time to clean up or clean around the service areas, is that reflecting the actual reality? Because I think a lot of people spend a long time, you know, doing their risk assessments and making sure that they had enough time for everything. Do you feel that you've left enough time, or are you actually finding that it's taking, now that you're in a routine, a lot shorter than the time that you had allocated?
For us, for hair, it takes about 15 minutes to clean up time by the time we've wiped everything down, given everything a good clean down. For beauty, a little bit longer, because we've just got to keep the beauty room a lot more hygiene, wipe everything down, take everything or strip everything. So there's a little bit more involved in it, whereas the chairs, we wipe all the chairs down, all the stations, sanitize. So yeah, I think for us, beauty took a little bit longer than we anticipated, cleaning in between each client. But now we've realised that we're easily able to amend it within our treatment appointments to allow that extra cleaning time. So we've kind of overcome that now. But in the beginning, it's a bit trial and error.
Perfect. And what about you, Rory?
Yeah, like Matt said, we started with 15 minutes. And our cleaning time for full scrub down from the top of the mirror to the footrest on the barber chair and everything in between is 5 minutes. That includes disposing of the barber's disposable apron, gloves, fresh towels, wiping down the wash station as well as the barber station. So we're going to actually use that knowledge now to transition into jumping from station to station per client. So we're going to actually eliminate the 15 minutes, but still only have 3 stations, and you let barbers use 2 different stations for 2 different clients.
That's smart.
So
Then you can increase, obviously, the number of people you're seeing at any one time because you're eliminating that 15-minute gap.
Exactly. Our capacity going from 30-minute cuts to 45-minute cuts has dropped significantly. Now, that doesn't mean we necessarily have the traffic at the moment to demand more capacity, but I think we will in September. So the cleanup time, we were surprised, but again, it's a lot of practice. And as Matt said, trial and error makes for good learning.
Yeah. So another question, have you had any PPE customer complaints? So anyone maybe expecting more? I mean, it sounds like you guys are already, as I said, going above and beyond, but have you had any PPE customer complaints? And if so, how have you dealt with them?
For us, fortunately, not at the moment. I haven't had anyone. If anything, I think a lot of the customers felt more reassured with the extra PPE that we have gone, because as you guys discussed earlier, there was a whole grey area and questions as to what the government guidelines are. So like Rory's done, we've kind of gone over and above. So for that reason, I don't think we've had any complaints or anyone's been actually concerned about it.
Yeah, we haven't had any PPE complaints. It's been nothing but compliments and surprise.
Yeah.
That's good to know. That's good to know. So I think the moral of the story is, if unsure, always go a little bit above expectation, and then you should avoid anyone being worried about coming to see you. So another one is, what are you currently doing, or what is your policy, or have you changed it, if a client is showing up too early or too late? So do you have an area for a large waiting room or a queuing system? Sorry, that's on the next slide.
So for us, we are calling all of our clients the day before. In fact, if you combine the Treatwell notifications and our notifications, a client is confirmed 5 times, or at least reminded of their appointment 5 times. So along the way, we're asking them to come 5 minutes before their appointment. So in actual fact, we're seeing the client up to 20 minutes before they're needed in the chair, which is great. We offer coffee, tea, water, Coke, beers on the house. So a client comes in, whether they're 5 minutes early or 10 minutes into the 15-minute cleaning time, the buffer time between appointments, we give them their drink. They can wait outside on the sidewalk. We've got a couple of benches, the pavement, or they can sit in our coffee bar area with a mask on, and just wait. They're sitting along the wall, separated by safe distances. So we actually haven't. We've had a couple of no-shows, which is strange. But it confuses me every time I see that. But otherwise, being early or late because we've got the extra 15 minutes cleaning time is not a problem at all.
That's good.
Quite similar to Rory, we've had a lot of clients who they call up before their appointment to confirm, and we've called them the night before to confirm every appointment to kind of stop no shows. But also with the clients getting their reminders from Treatwell has been really great. And because we're not taking any walk-ins, everyone is kind of on time. And if they do come early, because we haven't got as many stylists in, we segregate the clients and maybe put another client downstairs while they're waiting, while the other client's finishing upstairs. And then the stylist can go down to that client and we'll hygiene and clean the station that was just being used.
That's good. It sounds like you've got some good customer etiquette coming back from lockdown. Hopefully that means everyone's desperate for their beauty treatments. They don't want to risk missing them. So the next question, and the final one on hygiene. So where did you get and source your PPE from, if you don't mind sharing? And another interesting point that's come up from a lot of our partners that we've noticed is asking about absorbing the costs. So as we know, the PPE question for customers has been a bit of a grey area. Initially, it was not mandatory for your customers to come in with PPE. It was more down to your discretion. That may be set to change now, but if you're expected to wear it, is that something that you are absorbing the cost of or adding on as an extra charge to your services?
We've not actually added any extra charges on for our PPE, and we've just done a lot of research and find the best suppliers that are actually out there. And now, the last couple of weeks, there's so many more beauty suppliers that are actually supplying, and the prices aren't as extortionate as they were when the virus kind of started. So it's a lot more absorbable in your prices, and that's how we've kind of looked at it. And if a client comes in without a disposable face mask, we always offer them. We have them by reception, and we've kind of absorbed the price ourselves at the moment.
That's good. What about you, Rory?
Well, we studied the PPE costs and expected them to be at a certain level, which they've kind of reached for us at the moment. And with 9 different items of PPE per client, we decided, and also taking into account 45-minute appointments, we decided, because our barber services aren't any less valuable than they were pre-lockdown, we decided that our barbers should continue to make the cooperative rate of 50 pence on every pound that we take, and then we charge a £3 COVID fee, essentially a PPE fee. Not a single customer has said anything about it. Everybody gets a disposable mask. Everybody gets to wash their hands. They get gloves, shields, everything we can offer. They've got the drinks. They've got the extra time in the chair. The barbers are still making great tips. So it's not a cost issue for them. I think everybody is just really happy to be back in the barbershop. Now, in the future, as the prices drop more, we may reduce the PPE fee, but we've got extra costs, and it comes to just over £3 per client. So we priced it out and just charging what we were paying.
Absolutely fair. I think it's really interesting as well to get from both of you, because obviously it's a different customer base for both of you as well. So naturally you will have different costs to fill. So it's nice to hear from both sides of the story in terms of that, and that equally to all of our partners, like that's something that really you are open and can make your own decision on in terms of what's right for you and your business. So the next set of questions I'm going to hand over to Marianne, and that's more about how the logistics of running your business is post-lockdown.
Thanks, Kate. So we'll just move on to the next slide and get stuck into it. So the first question, how are you guys managing? I know you're both super, super popular and would have had extremely long waiting lists during lockdown. How are you guys managing this waiting list in like the most efficient way possible to get through it as quick as you can?
Well, we had no idea until we opened Treatwell up that we had to do so much work to manage this waiting list. We well, the first problem was, we had 200 appointments. Well, actually, it was far more than 200 appointments. We had 200 half-an-hour appointments that needed to be changed to 45 appointments. So we had to start speaking to clients. And we spoke to just under 300 clients in the course of a week. Moved them around. Managed to get most of them in. I mean, some people got bumped. I'm sorry to say that even on the 4th, there were people that were really unhappy because they didn't answer their phone, for example, when we called them a few times. Or they weren't happy to prepay for their appointment or something like that. So unfortunately, we did disappoint a few people, but I think a lot of client contact was the key to managing such a long waiting list and managing expectations.
Yeah, very much the same for us. We contacted our clients who was on our waiting list and, gave them all their appointments that they'd asked for a long time. And then straight after that, as soon as our diaries opened, we allowed space for any online bookings to come through. And that's how we kind of did it. So we had our regular clients all booked in prior. And then soon when the 4th opened, we managed to just open our diaries. And then anyone who wanted online bookings and prepaid just managed to do it like that. So we managed to get everybody in.
Oh, great. And what about when there would be a no-show or something, for example, someone from the waiting list? Would you open your diary in that instance and allow for an online booking, or would you just go down on further down onto the waiting list?
Depending on what the treatment is. If it was, for example, I've had not that many no-shows, but surprisingly, we've had the 1 or 2. And one of them, I think, was a highlights appointment. So we were able to open it because we were able to allocate that amount of time for mail cuts and some more shorter services. If it was just like a mail cut no-show, we would have just left it in there, put it as a no-show, and just carried straight on to the next client.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty much the same thing. We operated a manual waiting list, but because we confirmed clients, we confirmed them on the Monday before the 4th. We confirmed them on the Wednesday and also on the Friday. So we confirmed them 3 times. They knew they were going to show up. So our only no-shows have actually been this week. And it's customers that aren't adhering to our policies. So we didn't have to deal with a no-show issue initially.
Good to know, because I know a lot of our partners are struggling to deal with their waiting list, and they don't know when exactly they should be kind of opening their calendar to allow for the online booking. But what I hear from you guys, it's essentially the minute you've gotten through the waiting list is the best time to open your calendar up.
Yeah, definitely.
So the next question, would you guys recommend special offers or discounts, or are you keeping your prices the same?
At the moment, because we're so busy filling everybody in, we're keeping our prices the same. And I think we're just going to watch the market and how the market goes. If we find that it's quiet on a Monday afternoon, then yeah, we might put a promotion up. But at the moment, for the next 4 or 5 weeks, we're just going to keep our prices at the same, and then kind of just see how the market flows from there.
We have actually offered discounts to groups and companies, not just the local area companies. So on same day bookings, if someone from a local restaurant wants to come in for a haircut, they can pop by, see if we've got appointments, book and pay, and get 50% off their appointment. We'll be putting in an NHS freebie in a few weeks, and we offer 30% off all Soho House staff across the capital, so they can book at any time in advance. That's a reciprocal deal that we've got. So we are definitely going to fill our books and use discounts and marketing promotion over the next 12 weeks to the end of September.
But in a strategic way.
In a strategic way. No local discounts across the board. And there's no students in town now at the moment, so the student discounts are off. But initially, everybody was full price, plus the £3 PPE charge. But now that we're going to start filling the book for the future, we are starting to do our marketing promotion. We still have competitors out there, and everybody's hungry for that client. And the fewer clients that come into the capital, that come into Charlotte Street or the West End, everybody's competing for them. So we have to continue to market.
I just wanted to note that it's really generous that you guys are doing free bids for the NHS staff. Good on you for doing that. So moving on to the next question, what is the long-term impact of working in this new way? And I think what we mean by this question is, how do you think your business is going to change in the long run? What's going to be the difference in the layout of your shop, your waiting rooms? How is it going to change how you communicate and market with your clients? Any kind of insights on that would be great.
I think at the moment, we just have to, like everyone, we're going to wait and see kind of how it goes. I can't plan, for 6 months of what's going to change in our shop at the moment. For now, we're just carrying on as best as we can with all the kind of changes we put in place prior to opening. And then I guess like anything, you just adapt. And we'll just adapt in the current climate and adapt to how the situation changes. We'll change with it.
Yeah, taking each day as it comes, really.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I agree with Matt. I mean, we were talking about this as a team a couple of weeks ago when we were doing like our pre-opening, one of the pre-opening Zooms. And I actually think we got to a point kind of as consumers where we were ready to accept pretty much anything if the price was right. And one of the examples was that, budget airlines were publicized as considering for stand-up seating on the planes. And we looked at that, and actually not a lot of people blinked because it would mean cheaper flights to Mallorca. But my barbershop has always been, the reason why we opened the barbershop is because I wanted a place that I'd like to go to. And there's always been, 1.650 centimeters, 1.65 meters of space in between barber chairs. No, it's 1.75 meters of space between barber chairs. So that's basically the 2 meter safe distance. And luckily, we've got a very big shop in Windmill Street. So from a space point of view, we don't really need to change the way our barbershop is laid out. But what we may do, and I like this idea of not having a reception desk. I really like the barber's direct relationship with the customers, that a customer spends all of their time with the barber at the barber station as opposed to popping around in different places. So we could actually put a couple of more stations into our barbershop in the future and make them self-contained. They've got their own POS. They've got all their own PPE. They've got, all those different things.
I love that from start to finish, kind of touch and go. You've got that relationship with your stylist or your barber the entire time. I think that's a really cool idea.
Yeah, so that's the biggest long-term impact for us.
Sorry to interrupt you. If you didn't have anything else to add, Matt, we'll move on to the next question. I know this is kind of somewhat been answered already, but please feel free to add anything in here. Post the kind of initial rush, do you have any plans as of yet to attract any new and repeat customers? Or as you said, you just taking it each day as it comes?
Well, because we with Treatwell, I love their marketing campaigns and the ability to hone in exactly what I want to specify with a couple of clients. So once every month, we're just going to be running, for example, promotion maybe on waxing or hair, and just really honing on the different clients via emails and the marketing campaigns that we can do through Treatwell.
Right. And what about you, Rory?
Yeah, I think I touched on this earlier. We are going to market the pants off the barbershop. And we're going to reach out to customers that were in our shop 10 years ago, if we can. And we're going to invite them all in. And I think that there's not just the element of they're not coming into central London, but there's also, there's a lot of uncertainty. And you have to kind of get people back in the habit of coming into the barbershop. So we want to see them, and I'm happy if the first service that a barber gives is heavily discounted and the customer walks away really happy and books their next appointment 4 weeks from now. I mean, that is a win in my book. So it really is just getting that traffic through the front door.
Yeah, it's just the challenge really of getting them in for the very first time. But once you've done that and you show that you're doing a good job, then the rest is easy.
Yeah, we're going to go Canadian on this thing, and we're going to actually call the customers and speak to them as people. We're going to go old school and pick up the phone and call our customers and say, come back and see us. You're very welcome, and here's what we're doing.
Yeah, and again, you've got that personal element there, which I love. We're going to move on to the next slide, because I know we're cutting it on time here. So if you expected to be busy or not busy, has the reality reflected that of your expectations? I know you guys touched on this before, but you've had a really, really long waiting list. Is that continuing to kind of the influx happening there, or has it dropped down a little bit after the first couple of weeks?
So far, it's still been really busy for us. The last couple of weeks, we've had a lot of new clients, which has been great. A lot of new male clients. And interesting, like you guys pointed out earlier, with what the main services were that people were booking, we've actually found that in our salon with highlights, waxing, have really come forward for us. So my biggest, I think, thing was the whole thing about the amount of new clients that actually came in versus obviously our regulars all came in, but I didn't expect so many new people to come in at the same time.
Interesting.
That is a good point Matt raises, because we have had quite a few new clients. When that was my biggest despair, I think, if despair is even a thing in this house, it's it was, I thought we weren't going to have any new clients, and all we'd see is our regulars. But on a positive turn, that we've had a lot of new customers, quite a few more than expected. And I think the reality has reflected that of our expectations with our regulars. They're very loyal and very patient. And as long as you do exactly what they want, which is give a damn good cut and an excellent coffee, they'll be yours forever.
And for the next question, this kind of is going off what we had before, but what kind of treatments for those new and repeat customers that are coming in, what treatments have you noticed that are being booked less?
For us, massage, no massages. We found it being very, very quiet. More like kind of the more intimate treatments like sugaring and waxing have been really, really busy for us. Nails, okay, kind of busy. Pedicures, very busy. And
everyone's got their feet out for summer.
Yeah. And it's surprising. One of the busiest services with us were highlights and balayages. Almost busier than roots. Root colours, very obviously, usually root colours are our, one of the most popular treatments. But I was really impressed that highlights and balayages were probably more popular at the moment than roots.
Well, they're probably getting used to the look of having two different hair colours on.
Everyone's learned a lesson to go for a more low maintenance colouring service, I think.
We rarely have the request for balayage, and I barely even say half the things that Matt just said. The barbershop is such a simple old concept. So even before before lockdown, we had 7 services, and that was one too many. And now we have haircut, beard trim, and buzz cut. That's it. We don't do shaves. We're not doing the no shave men's facial. So we've noticed that the beard trims are being booked less, because I think guys have really gotten into the habit of clippering at home. But unfortunately, the dynamic in our shop is not one of many services that we can see the demand change.
Right. Okay. And I think the next question is something that I'm actually really eager to hear about. But how has your staff management changed? And if so, how? Like, have you changed your rota? Are you bringing in your employees on shifts and making them start earlier and do rosters and that kind of thing? How have you guys been managing that?
We've just probably like a lot of salons have opened longer hours. Open 7 days a week trade, and then staggered our staffing different times. So one early, one will finish late, and one will start in the morning, one will start halfway through the day, and one will finish right through, and just staggered the roster like that at the moment, trading 7 days a week, and just keep it like that for the next couple of weeks. And then as we need to change it and amend it, we can do. But for now, all our staff were quite happy to come back to work, and were so keen. They were happy with the changes that we implemented.
Yeah, same philosophy on our side. Make hay while the sun shines. The barbers can work. Initially, they worked 8 days straight.
Wow.
There were, we used to do that. We do that at Christmas time.
Mhm.
From the 14th to the 24th, they could work every day of the week. So it really is. It's that. I actually heard a barber planning a holiday today. So some of them are going away in August. As the demand drops.
It's exhausted from working 8 days in a row.
Yeah, exactly. But they get, like I said, they get paid 50 pence of every pound that's spent, which is good money. So they just want to be there if the customer is around. That's what they're there to do. They want to cut hair. Busy barbers or busy beauty providers are happier than people sitting around doing nothing.
Definitely. And that kind of what you guys were touching on before about changing the opening hours and everything, that kind of ties into our next question, which has already been answered. But have you found that, I know, Matt, you've changed your opening hours. Have you found that customers are willing or able to come in earlier and later and take those appointments during those time slots?
Yeah, it's been really interesting. I think because a lot of people are still working from home, they have a lot more flexibility. So I found that people could come earlier in the mornings or later on in the evenings, whereas before they might have been a bit more restricted with family situations and things. But now at the moment, they're quite happy to come whenever we're available to offer them that service. So it's been worked out better for us. So maybe in the long run, it might be something we'll carry on doing.
Great. And Rory, I think you've kept your opening hours quite similar.
Yeah.
But you
we were open longer, and we were open on Sundays for the first time in a while on the 5th. But we've gone back to 9 or 10-hour days with proper breaks, etc. We'll see how it goes. I think we'll actually close on Sundays and Mondays, I think, because 5 days a week is sufficient for one barber to make a good living and actually have a good hard work week. So they deserve time off. Definitely a weekend day and a weekday. Why not? So we might close Sunday, Monday, but it depends on client.
Yeah, I suppose just moving forward, it's just all about being flexible and willing to change and adapt to whatever may happen in the next couple of months. So thanks, guys. We've just finished this section on being back to business. I'm going to hand over to Kate now to just quickly talk about being bookable online before we move on to the partner questions. Thanks, Kate.
Yes. So we just have a few questions, really. I know both of you are real online advocates. So if we go on to the next slide. Obviously, booking online is something as well that's come up a lot. It's been a real subject of contention with the government guidelines because obviously there's lots and lots of information that you guys have to gather now, and you have to be tracking every single appointment that's coming in, etc. So how has being bookable online enabled your business, and not just now, but in general?
For me, it's been a lifesaver because if people can get the ability to book online whenever they want, and because we're quite an international area, we get people booking in before they get to plane or literally after they've got off a plane. And now, now we're operating again for the whole track and trace system. It's really good. So I know exactly who's coming to the salon, their details, their emails. So if a situation ever did break out, I'd be able to contact every single client and let them know straight away. And we could even email them all as well if there was a situation. So that's how Treatwell actually works really great for this situation that we're going through with COVID. I find it absolutely great and gives the clients the ability to book whenever they want.
Amazing.
Yeah, he's right. I hate to say it, Matt, but you're absolutely right. Online bookings were growing as a percentage of overall booking channel month on month from 5 years ago when we first started using Treatwell. But now is the only way. So we take people from all places. They could call us on the phone. They could find us on Facebook. They could click through Instagram. Any number of ways, Twitter, etc. But we're driving them straight through that gate that is Treatwell, and every customer, every client books on Treatwell, they put in their first and their last name, their phone number, and their email address. We know what time they're going to show up. We take their temperature, and that goes in the Treatwell notes. They prepay. They have to move their own appointment around, and the client is now 100% in control of their appointment. So it's the client and the barber, and it's promoting respect for the barber's time, which is great, because there's been a little bit of an undercurrent of, I can stay at the pub, I don't have to go to my barbershop appointment. But now that they have to go through this process and be quite structured and prepay with an online booking, it's not that way. There's definitely a much more respect for the barber's time.
I guess as well for you, Rory, I can speak for a lot of our partners that are barbers on Treatwell. A lot of barbers, especially in London, adopt more of a walk-in model, which is then difficult to adapt to what we're facing now. So I guess for you, being such an advocate for online bookings, it wasn't so much of a big change in terms of what you were asking your customers to do to actually get an appointment.
Well, when I opened the first Sharps on Charlotte Street in 2007, I had barbers decline the job because I said we were going to be appointments and walk-ins. And I said we're going to have 30-minute appointments. And they're like, well, what if it only takes me 20 minutes to do a haircut? So, well, then you got 10 minutes to, go out and have a smoke, or just, update your CV. Do whatever you like in that 10 minutes. But I think you should spend 30 minutes on a men's haircut. And they were like, no, we don't take appointments. So first of all, driving men's grooming towards appointments was an interesting challenge. And now driving appointments online, some customers, we actually had a customer say, I don't use apps. It's like, well, great. So you can walk into the barbershop and you can use our iPad and we'll show you how to use the app. Oh, come on, can't you just do it for me? No, afraid not, sorry. And they actually ended up coming in and using our iPad and booking it themselves. But I think there's a lot of there's hesitation, but once you get them over that first hurdle of doing it first time, it's perfectly fine to do it thereafter, because there's a lot of freedom and a lot of control that they have over what time they come in for their appointment. There's a lot of, especially with Treatwell, there are a lot of reminders and tools for the client, not only for the partner.
Yeah, for sure. Could I just have the next questions, please, to our presenter? The next one. Perfect. So how have you guys, or how, if you have, been driving any bookings using Connect? Because I know both of you use our software. So have you used any of the tools in Connect to drive bookings, and if so, how?
Yeah, definitely. Via emails, definitely. Also under promotion tabs with the Connect. We tend to use the Connect a lot for promotions and also for emails. And because you can really hone into what specific clients you want via Connect, it really makes it a lot more easier when we're splitting up promotions for beauty or for hair, and to be able to just market particular clients that we wanted to, rather than just a global email. But even if we just wanted to send, a global email to everyone, we can just organize an email and send it straight out to all of our clients. So it's a really, really good tool.
Yeah, it makes it super easy, right?
Really easy.
Yeah, we've done the same thing. The back in business email was helpful. Treatwell sent some automated things while we were closed. And then we've combined that with our own SMS program, our own client contact program, and MailChimp to just continually contact clients.
So you've used it in conjunction with something else in a really clever marketing way, which is cool.
Yeah, well, Connect captures the information we need to communicate with the customer. So that's the first thing. But the second thing is that there are some tools and widgets in there that we've been able to deploy to reach out to customers en masse.
Perfect. And then the final one about online bookings, because you guys have been with Treatwell for a while. Do you have any Treatwell tips for any of our newer partners listening, or people that are kind of on the verge of adopting online booking? What are your expertise and tips on it?
Play around with it. And if you're not sure, just call up your account manager, or just call up Treatwell, and they'll walk you through it. every step of the way for us. We just found it anytime, even sometimes I get stuck, I just pick up the phone, they'll talk me through it, show me how to do it. Or else they could sometimes, they can even do it for you. So best thing is just play around and just give Treatwell a call if you ever get stuck. Or you're a account manager, ask your account manager to come down, have a meeting with you, show you how you can do it. And once you know how to do it, you'll be like, wow, it's really, really simple.
Yeah, funnily enough, I've had so many conversations with Marianne Nolan recently that, sometimes your phone says, send a text to such and such because you contacted them a lot. And it said to me, send a text to Marianne Nolan this morning. I was like, no, not yet.
I'm probably going to follow suggested friends on Facebook soon. The amount of contact we've been having.
Exactly. Find me on TikTok. But my biggest tip is get a mobile phone just for the shop. Don't use your own, but get a mobile phone like an iPhone just for the shop, and use Connect on your iPhone, because you can click to text, you can click to call, and customers are calling you back. You can have the number that it calls out to as your shop phone, but essentially it saves you a lot of steps. So you can click to email, click to call directly from Connect, which has saved a heck of a lot of paper and writing down numbers and transferring them from one place to another. I think that's probably the one big tip that I've got is, bite the bullet, spend the 40 quid a month to have a shop dedicated mobile phone for Connect. Little different than an iPad, because if you've got it on an iPad, you can't actually make voice calls on an iPad. You end up FaceTiming with your client, and they might be in their garden in a hammock or something like that. But that's my tip.
Perfect. So we'll just move on to the last ones, although a lot of these have already been answered, so we will not repeat ourselves too much. So let's just
we probably don't really need to go through if Adriana, if you could just get all the questions up on the screen. I think most of you guys have been really, really comprehensive in your answers. I think most of these have actually
I would be interested to know, though, I know that Rory, you talked us through what you did in your salon to get yourself ready and your team ready for your customers, but Matt, what differences have you made in your salon to get your salon ready for reopening?
We had training with the guys a week beforehand to show them all the changes we had made. So we put sneeze screens at reception, barriers in between the stations. On the nail bar as well, we had a sneeze screen on the nail bar. And then we put loads of hygiene stations around the place. So in each chair, there's like a spray bottle with cleaning product, antibacterial, and then there's also a blue roll, so they can wipe down all the stations. And then in the treatment rooms, we have disinfectant, big box of disinfectant wipes to wipe everything down, the door handles, the chairs, the beds. And then when the guys came in, we showed them all the different changes that we had. I gave them a package with all the new legislation, the new way of working, just really simplified it for them. So even some of my staff weren't so concerned about it. And then after that, every day they came in, they had a little section of the shop where they'd go in, get themselves ready for work, and then start working. And so far, it's worked really good. Now we've been open a while. Everyone kind of found their feet. Of course, the first couple of days is going to be a bit difficult. You are going to get, I don't like it. But then after everyone's done it for a few days, everyone gets the hang of it, and, everyone finds their feet with it.
Yeah. I mean, you guys, you have to be so in the know and following the guidance all the time. I know I'm certainly struggling to keep up. So I know you guys are doing a great job in looking after everybody. And another one, I guess, a lot of people have questions about PPE. I know, Rory, you touched on it earlier in terms of your barbershop, but what are your guys' feelings on it? Do you guys wear the mask and the visor at the same time, just the visor? Like, what advice would you have for our partners that are obviously concerned about what level of PPE that they should be wearing?
All the guys wear visors, and some of them do wear masks as well. If we have a client who's very vulnerable, then I would advise the guys, make sure you wear your masks in front of that client just to protect them. And then obviously if a client hasn't come in with a mask, we offer them a mask. And I know soon that it will be mandatory for the clients to come in with their own masks. And yeah, just pretty much with the visors, everyone obviously wears a visor, even at reception we wear a visor. And then, like I said, with the elderly couple, they would wear, or the vulnerable people, we would wear masks with them. But with the beauty, it's full PPE. So disposable gowns, masks, visors, gloves, and then they have a special bin there that they take everything in between every client and then reapply the PPE for the next client.
That's probably doing a lot to help with the consumer confidence as well. Like, as we mentioned, beauty has already got this air of discomfort about it because it's been limited in how much it can open. So I'm sure your customers really appreciate you taking those extra measures for the beauty services as well. What about you, Rory? How have your guys taken to the PPE, and are you kind of doing both or just one?
Initial resistance, can't cut with gloves, going to be too warm under a disposable apron, face shield and mask, or visor and mask. We're not going to be able to cut through it. It's going to fog things up. But, you know, I just encourage them to try it first because this is the best way to do it. And then if the client says, can I take my mask off? The barber will, you know, comply if he thinks it's safe. But we've temperature tested them before they come in the property. We've sanitized in between every client. We've got the mask, the visor, the apron, the gloves, the disposable cape for the client, separate bins for towels, fresh towel, separate bin for waste disposal, etc. So I said to the guys today, if it works for my GP, we'll do it in the barbershop. And that's what we'll stick with. They're just really happy to be back to work. And long may that last.
Perfect. So, yeah, as I said, we don't really want to repeat ourselves, but if any of you listening feel like we haven't answered any of these questions, but as Marianne so rightly said, the guys have answered so comprehensively and everything going through. So if we just go on to the next slide, we just wanted to reiterate what we've sent out as a brand. So we've got our Back to Salon toolkit that you can use. It's all downloadable. It should have been sent out. If you haven't got it, then do get in touch with us because we can resend everything. So there's printable posters, images to share on your social media, and a full guide in terms of a strategy to reopening from our learnings and our interpretation of all of the guidelines. Just the next slide, please. And again, you hear some just examples of some of our partners using it in action, which you're more than welcome to, you know, do something similar yourselves. And also, just to reiterate from the start of the webinar, as we said, there is something you can sign up to on the Facebook page just to follow up with the letter that we're sending to Parliament in terms of all of those actions that we mentioned to really help to support the beauty industry get back on its feet.
So that kind of concludes the webinar for today. Thank you so much, Matt and Rory. You guys honestly have given such amazing insights into what it's been like in the salon and the barbershop since you've gotten back and what you're going to be doing moving forward. And I'm sure this is really, really useful content for some of our partners. So we thank you so much for taking the time. This is the second part of a 3-part webinar series. So please stay in the loop and we'll keep you updated on what will be happening next. Thanks so much, guys.